My wife is way too impressed with the fact that she gave a bus driver directions for a school trip using her phone for directions. She keeps calling herself Christopher Columbus, Crisco for short. She's the greatest thing to ever happen to my life, and I'm about to remove her from the census because she won't stop calling herself Christopher Columbus. Welcome to Rumble Book Club. I'm your host, Michael Hernandez, and this is the show where a normal guy like me can talk about interesting books I read, old and new, good and bad. So if you like the show, you like the content, you like the books that I talk about, or maybe your wife is making obnoxious gestures calling herself Christopher Columbus too, you've come to the right place, my friend. Unfortunately, you can follow us on Twitter, Getter, TikTok, or Parler, or you can subscribe right down below on YouTube and Rumble. But more importantly, be a part of the conversation. Let me know what you think about the show. Comment, share these videos with your friends, or donate to the show if at all possible. Today we're going to cover a really fun book that I enjoyed reading this summer. Today we're going to take a look at The Colorado Kid by Stephen King. This is a newly printed edition. It first came out in 2007. I believe this was reprinted in, I want to say about 2015. It's part of the Hard Case Crime Books, which is kind of an independent publisher that is kind of going back to the old school forms of mystery writing, where you can sit down within a span of hours and kind of in an afternoon read an entire book and really enjoy yourself, almost like going to see a matinee movie or something. But King uses a murder mystery theme to flex his storytelling muscles and focuses on the puzzlement of a small town in Maine over a man's body that's found on the beach. So let's take a look at the aesthetics. It is busy, but that's kind of the point with this specific book. It's meant to recreate the old one-sitting hard-boiled mysteries and westerns that you used to see in drugstores across America throughout the 40s and beyond, all the way up to, I would say, as recently as the 80s, maybe the 90s, in the era that I grew up in. So it does have nostalgia points. There is some design intent to the business. So I'm willing to give it some grace there. So as far as the aesthetics, 8 out of 10. Now looking at the readability, King goes right for the meat in this book, and it's clearly written without much embellishment on the characters. The primary exposition we get from each of the characters is through their actual words and deeds, which is a bit of a change of pace from many of King's books, where you'll hear an entire biography exposition about that character in addition to learning more about the character from their words and deeds. So as far as the readability, perfect score, 10 out of 10. Now let's take a look at the content. The story focuses on a young newspaper intern named Stephanie, who's put in several months of work at a local Maine paper called The Weekly Islander. She's got talent, smart, she's pretty, she's got a ton of work ethic, even though most of the stories she covers are typical small island town items. Her bosses, Dave and Vince, who are also the only workers of the paper, are two classic small town old timers who kind of while away the days talking and making jabs at each other. Stephanie is entertained and charmed by them, while also being very intrigued by this sense of mystery about them. They always seem to have these kind of knowing smiles, these inside jokes, and she always has this feeling for the past 3 months of working with them that she is kind of this outsider intruding on their small town space. But one day they make the decision that Stephanie has been with them long enough and has shown an intangible quality that makes her one of them, essentially. So they decide to tell her their most interesting story, the one that people tend to puzzle all the time about, and the one that they have this sense of pride that it happened in their town, that they took part in this story. It's their own kind of treasure, essentially. It's a story of a man's body that was found leaning against a trash can by the shore one morning by a local couple that was jogging decades ago. The two old men take her along for the mystery that they both followed intently with the police and investigators to figure out the man's identity, as well as the gnawing quest to find out why he left home from the opposite side of the country to begin with, and what he was doing and how he ended up dead on that beach in the first place. There's all kinds of questions that constantly pop up, and they're constantly allowing her to actually engage with them in figuring out the mystery. So they don't just flat out tell her all the answers that they were able to find out, what few there were, but they also have her work through these problems just like they did, where she's actually starting to take part in this mystery and figure things out for herself using her own intelligence. So she essentially makes herself one of them by not just hearing this special and intimate treasure of a story of that belongs to them, but also engaging in the same mystery and almost the same steps they did. So it is a very gratifying moment for her when she reaches that same point that they are, and she essentially becomes an islander just like these two old men. And it's a fun and interesting read that really expresses the quality of good storytelling and the mysterious nature of small towns, and as well as that sense of belonging, being a part of something, going from the fool, as Jordan Peterson calls him, the fool that doesn't know anything, that is outside the culture, to being inside that culture and being a part of it. So I thought it was absolutely fantastic storytelling by Stephen King. So as far as the content goes, very strong score, 9 out of 10. I found this book at Barnes & Noble. You can find it there too, as well as online. I highly recommend it. Fantastic book. It is The Colorado Kid by Stephen King, part of Hard Case Crime Books. Go out and get yourself a copy. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go read some. Crisco!